Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Thrive webinar. Thank you. Hello to everybody who's said hello in the chat. We are in for a treat today. We have the amazing Cheryl Kelly here, and Cheryl's going to be talking to us about dyscalculia. I think one of the key things we'll probably need to go through is how do we pronounce dyscalculia. I know people have lots of different pronunciations of it, but Cheryl's going to give us the lowdown on that. Cheryl was one of our first in the workplace instructors, came through on the March cohort, which was fantastic. And Cheryl used to be a special educational needs coordinator. But as always, I need to shut up now because I need to hand over to Cheryl, who's going to take us through her lived experience of dyscalculia. Cheryl, it's over to you.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for this lunchtime seminar. As Simon said, I'm going to be talking about dyscalculia or dyscalculia. If you're American like me, you say dyscalculia. If you're British, you say dyscalculia. And my personal lived experience in my journey as a young person and as a working professional, supporting those who require reasonable adjustments and also have additional needs within either education or the workplace. Just to start off on a really positive note, obviously everyone is unique and our personal identity comes from our experiences, background, thoughts, and feelings. My experiences, I was an immigrant and I moved to this country in 2009. I had done my bachelor's and trained as a teacher within the USA. And then I went over to Egypt and I trained to teach foreign folks English. And from there, I really got into sort of the logistics and what was needed for folks with reasonable adjustments coming out of education and different areas of education. As we're aware, our personal identity is quite complex, and everything that we go through, whether it's positive or negative, shapes us as an individual person. And also, all of our thoughts and needs are valid. So today, please feel free to ask any questions you may have. Your well-being is the most important thing in this room today. My role is to make sure that your well-being is being looked after. And please, any sort of uncomfortable topics or discussion, you're more than welcome to opt out of. And you can also leave at any time. Part of this holistic person-centered approach that I practice and genuinely believe in is that, you can only be ready and receptive to use your critical thinking and expand your horizons if you're comfortable and in a safe space. So this session is designed to improve your well-being and not to detract from it. Who am I and why am I here? Boy, that seems like quite a mess of questions. And what is this weirdo, very strange name of my company? So I'm going to answer all those for you. So who am I? As Simon stated, I was formerly a special educational needs coordinator working within schools. Through that work, I wrote something called educational healthcare plans, which some folks might be familiar with if they have had children or family members who've had personal plans and educational healthcare plans within education. So I would work with professionals from CAMS, from different medical professionals, specialists, to make sure that each individual person was able to succeed within education. So I was a bit like the concierge of the school. It was my job to make sure everybody was happy and safe and able to engage in everything. So from that, I moved into further education and reasonable adjustments. So I help out charities, educational institutions, and corporate entities to support folks who maybe identify as having additional needs or have diagnosed or undiagnosed conditions of various types, whether there be neurodiversity or physical needs. And I help support everyone with that. Why am I here? One of the first things I did was to train with Thrive as a neurodiversity trainer when I was leaving the educational workforce, because I found that I needed a training that could be delivered to multiple audiences. And I really wanted to get an in-depth knowledge about what I could do to help people and what I could do to help businesses, because as we know, employee retention and the job market is so very important within our economy. And so I'm here to discuss my own lived experience with dyscalculia and how that journey has taken me and how it's really been a challenge for me in certain aspects of my life. And maybe there might be some challenges that you might not have anticipated for someone who has dyscalculia. Just in case you might not be aware, dyscalculia is someone who has trouble with numbers. So The best way I can explain it for ease is a dyslexia of numbers. So it's somebody who struggles with numbers, with being able to visualize, numerical measurements, and to be able to understand really what it means to count something, or know how much of something you have, or to estimate these sorts of skills. And my funny name, last but not least, pragmatic thaumaturgy, which I know is a mouthful for any of you who might be Greek or might have taken ancient Greek. Obviously, we all know the word pragmatic. Pragmatic means logical. And thaumaturgy, this is where your Greek comes in, means miracle. So my company name translated is Logical Miracle. I like to say that it's the bridge between logic and magic. It's making those things that seem miraculous and creating them through logic and hard work. So Dyscalculia, the lived experience. So what's really interesting is that I view it not as a challenge, but as a superpower. So this is a superpower that affects a person's ability to understand numbers. Now, you might be thinking, why would you call it a superpower if it's something that can make your life challenging in different areas of your life? And the thing is, like any sort of neurodiversity and neurodifference, it's something that, just because I don't understand numbers and estimation quite the same way other folks do, it doesn't mean that I don't have other talents and attributes that I've used very well to be able to accomplish my needs and dreams. So a difference is that with the right support, it can lead people to do amazing things. I've been able to live in 3 countries, be able to educate people from diverse backgrounds and around the world, and also be able to support in different international and local companies, and also charities. And to be able to do this work and to help people, just in spite of having some challenging moments or challenging things myself, has really been a wonderful thing within my life. So what is dyscalculia? So the most important things you need to take away from, if someone says, what is this? What did you attend a lunchtime webinar on? It's a brain-based difficulty. And common signs can be things like having difficulties with number sense, basic arithmetic, and understanding mathematical concepts. It affects about 5 to 7% of the population, and maybe more in common with people with certain neurological conditions. So that's why here we have the picture of the brain-based difficulty, because it's something that is neurology based, and it's based on how someone is able to interpret mathematical information. It comes about within school education that dyscalculia can be identified. It can be identified at home if you homeschool your children, or if you have them engage in things like maybe recipe making, or asking them you say, guess how many Skittles are in this jar, and things like that. So the prevalence, we're not really sure, really, because it doesn't have a bespoke sort of set of assessments like dyslexia and other kind of neurodiverse conditions do. And this is why it can be quite difficult to be able to pinpoint the prevalence of it within our communities and within the national places as a whole. And that's the problem. We're still discovering about dyscalculia and how it affects people, and exactly why it affects people in some ways and not in other ways. The impact of dyscalculia on daily life. Of course, one of the first areas being an educator is in school. Now, obviously, with your maths classes, your science classes, these can be really difficult to access. You could need additional time. You could, I know for myself, I was in smaller classes. So my maths class would have between 3 and 8 people through schooling. I was very lucky. I was identified as having needs. They called them needs in arithmetic back when I was in school. That's how they termed it, and they said, we don't really understand, but for some reason she needs a specialist arithmetic class, but all the other classes she's able to access just fine. The school psychologist at my school identified me, and they were able to give me support, but there wasn't really a name attached to it. It was just, oh, this person was having challenges. Within the workplace, things like having to use two different monitors, having a lot of trouble reading spreadsheets, having to block off spreadsheets with paper and just go line by line. That's really one of the big challenges, having to set reminders of order of do things. And for example, having extra time to complete tasks that involve spreadsheet reading and data, it's a lot easier now, luckily, with our pocket calculators we all have, which are our telephones, and it's easier to have those. But on exams and things where you couldn't use any sort of aids, it was really challenging. And to be able to get the pass marks to be able to go on to a university and be able to get into education was a very big challenge, especially within the United States, because within the United States, you need to have a certain number of credits in the maths and sciences. And that took a lot of going to summer school and extra working hard and having to return in assignments, being embarrassed about not passing on the first go, things like that. In my personal life, I would say it affects me quite a lot with if people start asking me things about how much money I saved or how much money I've spent or that I've budgeted. It can be embarrassing when you're just not able to rattle that off straight away and say, oh, it's this, and I have this budget, and I've spent this much, and I have this much left. Being able going to the grocery store, putting things in your trolley or your cart if you're American, and just maybe not saying, oh, actually I've spent too much money because my estimates were off and my budget was off. Also things like spatial awareness, ordering a desk or a piece of furniture and not having it fit in the room because the measurements were off or you just couldn't estimate it correctly. And things that are unexpected, like balance. I've really a lot of trouble with my balance. I do well in the USA with driving and things like that, but when it comes to the UK, where I'm having to switch the steering wheel on the other side of the car, taking driving lessons and the driving test has been really challenging for me because my whole spatial awareness has just been flipped. I really get anxious and nervous, and I really try to do it, but because I have to reteach myself and have someone else reteach me, it's a lot more difficult to access than teaching someone who's never learned before. It's a challenge that I'm still doing, and I'm still looking forward to getting my license, but it's just going to take me a bit extra time. Managing dyscalculia in the workplace. So providing accommodations and creating an inclusive workplace. The thing is with dyscalculia, there's not a lot of people who are 100% officially diagnosed because the assessments for diagnosis are still in the works. So most of the kind of diagnosis comes through recommendations and through reasonable adjustment testing within exam environments and maybe going through university. It was only through becoming a special educational needs coordinator and learning about the different types of neurodiversity that I was actually able to put a specific name to what I was told was difficulties in arithmetic. Creating an inclusive workplace. There's so many wonderful reasonable adjustments that you can make to support someone. There's really creative things like allowing people to work from home. So I work from home with 2 monitors, and I'm able to copy and paste things easily. Sometimes I even work with 3 monitors. I might have a monitor that's vertical, and that might help me to read the spreadsheets and be able to cover parts of them to interpret the data a bit better. It's things like being able to job swap. For example, if someone's really great at importing things into Excel and I'm really great at tech and IT, just being able to say, okay, if you do that, I have the data here on a Word doc, could you just import it for me? And just, this is what it's about. And it's very challenging for someone to admit when they've been through education and they have degrees. It's very difficult for someone to admit that they can't do things that people find very simple and that they're able to do quickly. But just being open and honest, it's such a relief when people know that actually I really struggle with this. And I'm not afraid to admit it because there's things that you struggle with and everyone struggles with, and we can help each other. And just creating that sort of inclusive nature of community within the workplace makes a happy workplace. And it really makes for people to want to, stay and just do the best job they can. So effective strategies for supporting individuals with dyscalculia, things like visual aids, looking at a person's way of working, putting it in more accessible for them ways to view things. One of the worst things you can ask someone is, what do we need to do to support you? Most of the time, the person doesn't know. If the person knew, they would just quietly fix the problem themselves or get the support in themselves and not really tell you that they were using extra help or support. Most of the time, a more effective question to find out, what accommodations and what multisensory learning you can put in to help someone is to say, walk me through your day. What do you find challenging? So if you go from top to bottom and walk through that work day, that's when the possibility for adjustments really comes out, because that it's a collaborative process. That person is having to go through their day and think about where their challenges lie. And then people can come in and jump in and say, oh, if you have a challenge in that, actually, this might work, or you could try this. And then all of a sudden, all these recommendations come through. And then it's a bit of trial and error and experimentation, which is scary and exciting at the same time. that you might have something to make your job quicker and more efficient for you. And also you learn new ways to help other people, because so many other neurodiverse conditions, dyscalculia, has so many crossovers and similarities with other types of neurodiversity. And sometimes what'll work for someone with dyslexia will also work for someone with dyscalculia, and vice versa. And that's why just asking the question in a way that's very supportive and allowing someone to work collaboratively can really be helpful with finding the accommodations and the support that individual needs. Because just because it works for one individual doesn't mean it'll work for everyone. I wish that was the case. That would make things a lot easier. It's very much trial and error. So recognizing the signs of dyscalculia in children. So someone who struggles with basic math facts, someone who has problems with measurement and estimation, someone with a poor sense of directions and spatial relationships. Yeah, one of the things that happens to me a lot is I'll really mean, and I want to tell you that to turn to right, but I'll hear myself say left. And I cannot tell you how or why when I hear myself that I say the word left and not right. I don't know. I don't know how it happens. But I hear myself and I'm able to correct myself straight away and say, no, not left. I meant right. I'm sorry. Where that might frustrate a lot of people who aren't aware that it's something that I can't do maybe as quickly as other people. And also things like, how could you might hear, oh, how did you not know that it won't fit in your bedroom? So moving to England with everything a bit smaller, you can imagine the furniture I've had to send back, the stuff I've had to sell on, that I couldn't fit through the doors, I couldn't fit through the windows. It was too tall, it was too short, it was too wide. It was really a big challenge because I never had to really buy furniture before I moved to England. And I was used to just buying something and be like, oh, that looks nice and big. And then, oh gosh, it won't fit in your double bedroom because you can't fit your bed and your wardrobe in the same room. So some famous people with dyscalculia, people like Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, who ended up to be a fantastic entrepreneur and philanthropist, and he's still coming back and doing well and giving folks and helping people in various ways internationally through his foundation. Cher, the actress and singer, as you can see, many types of talents, music talents, choreography talents, and very, very special entertainment talents can happen when people have dyscalculia, just because their brain is wired a bit differently. People like Whoopi Goldberg, comedian, actress, and advocate, she really broke barriers, and she wasn't afraid to go in and do comedy and be authentic to her true self with her choices of movie roles and the characters she played. Oliver Sacks, neurologist and author, as you can see, here's somebody who didn't let science get in his way. He became a neurologist and has wrote many books. And people with dyscalculia can be amazing writers and speakers, not myself, but other people. And this goes to show you that where you do need support in one area, there's so many other areas where you can support others. Support and resources, things like the Math Learning Center, the British Dyslexia Association, which also has wonderful support because dyslexia and dyscalculia have so many crossover types of support available. The Dyslexia Association has some wonderful information. Of course, dyscalculia.org as well, which can give you the ideas of different support strategies and the different professionals who can help you support anyone who might be diagnosed or undiagnosed with dyscalculia. So just to conclude for you, dyscalculia, while it's a challenge, the right support and strategies and the right care and support within our workplaces and education can help anyone succeed in school, work, and life. With the advent of technology now, there's so many things that we do as part of our roles that help people with different neurodiversity challenges because they're just ways of working now. Things like typing instead of handwriting, or using now 2 computer monitors. No one would think that was strange at all. Understanding very much is the key. By educating ourselves about dyscalculia, we can work together to create a more inclusive and supportive society. And that's what it's really about. It's about being able to have someone notice someone else needs support and maybe just ask them in a way that doesn't make them feel defensive or uncomfortable or embarrassed. And that's the thing. It's all about collaborative working to be able to help engage and help support people with the reasonable adjustments in education in the workplace. And most importantly, we're here to help. So if you want to find out more about Thrive, please reach out. And the next free webinar, please join us. It'll be a wonderful one. It's the 27th of September, and it's titled Mental Health and Infertility, and it'll be hosted by Anita Guru. What a wonderful name there to have is Guru, and because obviously gurus know it all. And so I'm sure Anita will be able to share the many crossovers between mental health and infertility to get the knowledge and support out there. So thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing some of your questions.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. If you could just stop sharing the screen, that'd be brilliant. Even though we want people to come back on the 27th of September. Thank you so much for all of that. I just want to see your face. There we go. So we have got a few questions actually. I've attempted to answer one of them with my very basic knowledge of cut and paste, but I'm going to let you answer it in proper terms if that's okay. So the question was, is dyscalculia essentially the same as dyslexia, but with numbers instead of words? My rubbish reply was, dyscalculia is a type of number dyslexia and usually presents itself alongside a dyslexic profile. That was taken from the internet. What's
Yeah,
your answer?
absolutely. Copy and paste is always the best springboard to have any conversation. I always recommend it. The thing is, there's so many crossovers with dyslexia. So it's easy to just say, okay, A equals B, and it's numbers dyslexia. But the thing is, it's more complex than that. It's a bit more that the spatial awareness things, the sort of the physicality of it. Lots of folks with dyslexia have very narrow profiles where maybe they just struggle with a few different types of things. Some people have more open profiles where maybe they have crossovers of other neurodiverse conditions. But dyscalculia, because it seems to have so many factors that really don't seem to cross over, we're still investigating it. And so that's why it is different from dyslexia. But if you're trying to explain it to get someone to get the gist or the idea, it's a really good definition.
Brilliant, thank you. Quite a few people liking the job swap idea. I thought that was pretty clever as well, isn't it? And what you described perfectly was masking, that whole masking element. How can I go through education, degrees, multiple degrees in your case, and then, oh, by the way, I'm not really good at numbers. That's super brave to do. We did have another question, and it was, how would you work out the cost of stuff that's on sale? 50%
Yes.
is easy, but the rest of it's quite hard.
I'll tell you what, what's really saved me is in England, you don't charge sales tax. And it's wonderful because it's like literally what you pay on the thing. In America, for me, it's a nightmare because it's 6 or 8% tax. That's a nightmare. If it's not 10%, it's a nightmare for me. So my grandmother, God rest her soul, taught me that you can find 10% by just covering up the last number on a price. So if it's 1759, you can get that 10%. It could be, let's see, $1.75, let's say. And then you just take that 10%, and then I can do that 10% in my phone, and I can like triple it to be 30, or I could do, and that's been very handy. So I just work with 10%. If it's more than 10% or it's anything other than cover that last number, no, it's not happening. I do find I don't use cash. I use debit card exclusively because someone will say, "Oh, you got 20 pounds. Where'd you spend it?" I don't know. I got coffee. I'll tell them what I bought, but I have no idea what it cost. I'll just say I bought these things. And they go, "Oh, okay." Oh, not, but no idea what they cost. Cover that last number that yeah, good old grandma, God bless her. She's, because I'm like, I don't know. She's, I know. Cover the last number. Just do that, and then just use your phone to multiply it. Yeah.
And we did have a lovely thing about the reframe, and I thought your reframe was excellent. It's, what can I help you get through the day, through the week? And tell me your low points. I think that's a beautiful way of doing it.
Because being self-aware is the hardest thing we have to be aware of. If you ask someone to sit there and think about themselves, number one, they're really uncomfortable. Number two, there's so much going through their mind they can't really pinpoint. So if you just say, okay, let's get there, you get to work, what happens? You take your coat off. And one of the things I identified right away working in schools is I hate when people rush up to me when I haven't gotten my coat off and put my stuff down. Hate that. Just hate that. And it allowed me to voice and say, let me just sit down, let me take my coat off, and then a minute and I can deal with whatever you need.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know, Cheryl, that you need to shoot off. Cheryl's doing another trading course. He's managed to fit in the webinar for us. Thank you so much. I've just put Cheryl's LinkedIn notes in the chat as well. And yeah, what can I say, Cheryl? Thank you so much for being honest and sharing your journey with us. And yeah, we're very proud to be to have you part of our instructor partner program as well. Thank you so much for today, and thank you to everyone for joining us. If you do want to get in touch with Cheryl, please link into her. And
I like
if you've got any
friends.
more questions,
Please. I like friends. Link in with me on LinkedIn, please. It's wonderful. I like friends, and any sort of help and support.
oh, wonderful.
Take me a message.
No,
At
that's
Thrive,
brilliant.
Thrive has just been a new beginning for me and fantastic. So I highly recommend everybody either becomes an instructor or just supports Thrive, and maybe in any way possible, because it's just a fantastic organization.
We didn't pay Cheryl to say that
Oh,
either.
no,
Fantastic.
this is all free.
Oh, thank you again. And as we saw the thing, if anyone wants to come back on the 25th of September, we'll have another webinar. We'll send you all the link to that as well. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.